Okay, so what if I told you there's an intelligence on our planet that is so profoundly different from our own, it might as well be alien? It doesn't build cities or use language the way we do, but it solves incredibly complex problems, it shows curiosity, and it has a mind that's literally distributed across its entire body. Let's get into it because we are talking about the octopus.
You know, this quote just hits the nail on the head. We're completely fascinated by them because the octopus represents a totally separate evolutionary path to advanced thinking. It really forces you to take a step back and ask a huge question. What even is intelligence anyway?
And the things they can do, I mean, it's the stuff of legend. They've been seen doing things that just seem impossible for an invertebrate. You've got them opening jars from the inside, pulling off these elaborate escape plans from aquariums, using tools like shells for a little mobile home, recognizing specific people, and even impersonating other animals to stay safe. These aren't just little tricks, they're clear signs of a sophisticated and really adaptable mind at work.
To really wrap your head around this, you kind of have to throw out everything you think you know about what a brain is supposed to be. The octopus is organized in a way that is just radically different. 500 million. That's roughly how many neurons an octopus has. Now, just to give you some perspective, that's in the same ballpark as a dog. But here's the crazy part. The majority of those neurons aren't in a central brain. They're in the arms. They have a decentralized nervous system, so each arm can pretty much think for itself. It's like having 8 smaller cooperating brains. An arm can be totally focused on figuring out how to open a clam, while the central brain is on lookout duty scanning for predators. It's just a fundamentally different way of experiencing and processing the world. And you can see this distributed intelligence lead to some absolutely incredible survival strategies. Take the Mimic Octopus. It'll see a predator and then change its entire shape and movement to look like a venomous sea snake. Or the Coconut Octopus, which actually has the foresight to carry coconut shells around with it, just in case it needs to build a little fort later on. It's amazing. So if they're this smart, why is it that we're only just now starting to really get it? Well, it turns out the problem might not be with them at all. The problem might be with us, and the very, very narrow way we tend to define what intelligence even means. And there's a word for this: anthropocentrism. Basically, we have this habit of creating intelligence tests based on what we're good at, and then we judge every other animal by that same yardstick. It's kind of like a fish judging a monkey on its ability to breathe underwater. It just doesn't make sense. And this slide right here makes that bias so incredibly clear. We love to use the mirror test for self-awareness because we humans are so visual. But a dog fails the mirror test every time. So, scientists got smart and created a test based on scent, a dog's primary sense. And guess what? They passed with flying colors. It just goes to show, a lot of the time we're not actually testing for intelligence, we're testing for how much a creature thinks like a human. And believe me, this is not a new problem. Back in the 60s, when Jane Goodall first reported that chimpanzees were using tools, the scientific community basically scoffed at her. Why? Because tool use was supposed to be our thing, a uniquely human trait. It seems like we have this deep-seated resistance to accepting that maybe, just maybe, we aren't the only intelligent beings on the block. And this intellectual blind spot, well, it has real-world and frankly pretty tragic consequences for these incredible animals. There is this massive, profound disconnect between what we're learning about them and how we continue to treat them. This quote from the source material is so simple, but it really cuts to the emotional heart of this whole thing. Knowing what we now know, there's this growing unease, this sadness, about the fact that we see them as food. And this table just lays the paradox out so clearly. On one side, you have their cognition. They solve complex problems, they're curious. But our view? Seafood. On one side, their sentience. They recognize and interact with people. Our view? Commodity. It's a really jarring contradiction when you see it spelled out like this. And what makes this all the more tragic is their own biology. Octopuses have brutally short lifespans, sometimes just a year or 2. And because the mother dies while guarding her eggs, there's absolutely no chance to pass down knowledge from one generation to the next. Every single octopus starts from 0. It has to figure out the entire world all on its own. Just imagine the potential of a mind that brilliant reset to factory settings with every single generation. Okay, so
What do we do about this? How do we fix this disconnect between what we know in our heads and what we do in the world? Well, the good news is there are some pretty clear paths forward. It really boils down to three big things. First, we have to keep pushing science to broaden its definitions of intelligence and how we test for it. Second, we can get behind innovations in food, like biocultured alternatives that take the ethical questions off the table. And third, and this one's huge, we can use the power of stories to build empathy. And that third point is already making a massive impact. You think about something like the documentary My Octopus Teacher or the book The Soul of an Octopus. These aren't just entertainment. They create a real emotional connection. They let millions of people see the world from a completely different point of view and finally recognize the sentient, thinking being behind those curious eyes. So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. We've talked about their alien minds, our own biases, this tragic paradox. But just for a second, imagine if that one biological lottery ticket they lost, that short lifespan, wasn't an issue. If these brilliant, curious minds could actually build on the knowledge of their parents and their parents' parents, what secrets of the ocean or of intelligence itself do you think they would unlock? And what on earth could they teach us?